no place like the Q.
You've just been told you're going to be 9 years in a penal colony, one of the worst prisons in Russia.
I was just so scared for everything because there's just so much unknown.
Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn, and this is Queer News, your favorite weekly news pod where race and sexuality meet politics, culture, and entertainment. That voice you heard at the top of the show, that was Brittany Griner, sitting down with my ultimate favorite, Robin Roberts. This is her first sit-down, tell-all interview. The interview is called Prisoner in Russia, and it airs on Wednesday, May 1st at 9 p.m. Central. Join me on social because I will be watching. Chile, I will be watching. Family, don't forget, the Queer News tip line is open. I want to report on all the stories that don't make the news or a blog. A link is in the show notes. And QCrew? What's going on, family? Thank you for helping to financially sustain this podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you don't know, the QCrew helps to supplement the cost of this pod. Hosting, editing, marketing, PR, travel. It takes a lot to put on a weekly podcast. And so, if you believe in the work we do, if you believe LGBTQ stories need to be amplified, and if you love and respect how I report on the news and tell our stories, join the QCrew. A link is in the show notes. Oh, and family, don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel at E3 Radio and turn on the notifications so you don't miss a thing. Now for the news. Let's celebrate the wins. Come on. Do-do-do-do. It's a celebration. I have really been leaning in on that. I don't know what it is. But family, in politics, Republican extremists in Kentucky fail big time. Kansas governor stands with trans kids. A school board in Pennsylvania tried it, honey, but the community fought back. In culture and entertainment, there is so much to share. Sophia Bush came out, Curve dropped its 2024 lesbian power list. Candice Parker made a big announcement, took social media by storm, and my number one lesbian visibility moment of the week is coming out of South Carolina. Come on, y'all, let's go. In politics, we've got some good news today coming out of Kentucky, of all places. Republican extremists tried to pass 10 bills that were targeted at LGBTQ residents. And guess what, family? Guess what? They failed. All 10, not one, not five, all 10 of these bills failed. Yes, they did. If these laws, right? If these 10 bills would have passed, it would have weakened non-discrimination ordinances. It would have restricted drag performances. It would have also allowed doctors to deny LGBTQ folks of care. They could have just said, it's my moral objection. I got a religious right not to take care of this LGBTQ person. Didn't you take an oath though? I digress, but you get the point. Trey Grayson, a former two-term Republican Secretary of State of Kentucky and lobbyist for Kentucky Competes, a coalition of LGBTQ supportive businesses. Okay, so we got us a gay Republican here. He said this: it's clear that the anti-LGBTQ agenda is starting to fail, both in Kentucky and across the country, rightfully so. Now, let's be clear, I don't understand the gay Republicans, but I'm here with him on this. Y'all remember last month I reported about what happened in Florida around the Don't Say Gay legislation and how that's been repealed and clarified to the point where we can have queer books in schools and they can have GSAs, right? Gay straight alliances. All of these things can exist in Florida now. So I see what Trey is saying. Because at the end of the day, Republicans have yet to win the popular vote in the last decade. It's a very small subset of people who are hating, but they are so loud. They are so loud, it's deafening. Chris Hartman, the executive director of the Fairness Campaign, Kentucky's LGBTQ plus advocacy organization, echoed what Trey had to say. He said Kentucky now joins other states across the South, including Florida, Georgia, and West Virginia, where nearly every single anti-LGBTQ measure introduced in these state houses was defeated this year. That's the story I want to tell, family. That's the story I want you to hold on to, okay? Hold on to that, because we got a lot more fighting to go, okay? All right. I got more good political news for you, family. This time coming out of Kansas, Democratic Governor Laura Kelly vetoes another anti-trans piece of legislation. This one would have banned crucial medically necessary health care for trans youth. You know what she did? She rejected it. She vetoed it. And it's not her first time. While she's been in office, she's also vetoed legislation that came to her desk that would have banned youth from receiving gender-affirming care. She's also vetoed legislation that would have required individuals to use the restroom that align with their gender assigned at birth. She's also vetoed legislation that would have banned trans students from participating in school sports. And that's just a few. She's banned a whole lot of other stuff too, okay? The Human Rights Campaign's Senior Director of Legal Policy, Catherine Oakley, said this: "We continue to thank Governor Kelly for seeing bills like SB 233 for what they really are: dangerous misinformation and attempts to target vulnerable youth for the sole purpose of riling up anti-LGBTQ plus extremists. If any legislation seeks to ban best practice, medically necessary health care for no purpose other than the person receiving that care is trans, that is discrimination. Plain and simple. Doctors, patients, and families, not politicians, should be making healthcare decisions." As Governor Kelly has made clear with her previous vetoes of other anti-LGBTQ plus bills, discrimination is not in line with Kansan values. Legislators should do the right thing and sustain this veto. I hope they sustain this veto just like they've sustained the others from Governor Kelly, and I thank Governor Kelly for continuing to stand up for what is right and fair. Our next story is about Maulik Pancholy. I've been following this story for the last couple of weeks, and you may be familiar with him from his roles in 30 Rock, and he's also a voice actor in Phineas and Ferb. Well, Maulik is also an author and an activist, a public speaker, and openly gay. Well, he was booked to speak at Mountain View Middle School in Pennsylvania. That was until the school board found out about it and immediately canceled his visit. That's right, they voted 8-0 to cancel his talk at this school. One of the board members that introduced this resolution, Bud Schaffner, he justified the decision by saying it was Maulik's lifestyle. That was the reason. Child, can we take a minute just for an Anna moment? Does anybody else hate when who you are is referred to as a lifestyle? Who I am is not a lifestyle. Who I am is who I am. It's the essence of my humanity. It is not a lifestyle. It is not something I pick up and throw away and try again or do something differently. It is who I am. My word. I digress. Back to the facts. I'm coming back. And I wasn't the only one upset about these comments. The community was upset as well. And do you know what they did? The community showed up at that next board meeting and gave those folks hell. Students and parents alike let them know that this would not be tolerated. Do you know that board took another vote and now Maulik is approved to come back and speak? They won the vote 5-4. And not only did they win the vote, Bud Schaffner, the lifestyle guy, apologized for using that language. Apologized for using that word. He said, "I will accept the blame because of the insensitive word I spoke on that April 15th meeting. I fully understand the interpretation of my poor word choice." Child, these folks apologizing out here in these streets. Now, Maulik has been keeping his followers and supporters updated on his Instagram and doing videos expressing how he's feeling about everything that's going on. And Maulik said, "I'm deeply grateful to the hundreds of people who showed up and for the outpouring of support from the superintendent, administrators, parents, caregivers, teachers, and community members. I was especially moved by every single student who showed immense courage stepping up to the podiums. Thank you for sharing your powerful messages of love, inclusion, respect, and belonging." He ends his statement by saying, "I cannot wait to meet all of you in person." Family, this is what it looks like when we stand together. This is what it looks like. We have power together. Maulik is gonna rock this talk, I already know. And this seems like a great time to take a quick break. And when we get back, all the culture and entertainment news, okay? All right, stay close. There's no place like the Cube.
Hey, Esther.
Hey, Darren.
We are back for season 2 of Second Sunday. Hey, I'm looking forward to it.
This season is going to look totally different from the last season.
Absolutely. I mean, last season, we talked to folks who have stories like mine. People who are working from within the church to build inclusive spiritual spaces for Black queer folks.
This is what a church community should look like. A place where everyone is welcome, where I'm not afraid to name myself, and I'm not afraid to name you as being welcome.
But we know that the need for this kind of spiritual inclusivity doesn't stop at the church doors.
This season, we're mostly talking to people exploring their faith outside of the traditional church as many of us know it.
We call it the mystic law and all these different things because it just does what needs to be done. And as long as you show up, as long as you keep showing up, that's all that is required, is that you show up in front of the mirror. That's it. And that you look at yourself clearly without filters, without whatever, and that you polish that mirror so you can see through the dust.
It's amazing to me how people always find a way to connect with their spiritual higher power, even when it's outside of the traditional church.
She said, "But I do know the presence of God when I feel it. And God does not inhabit a place that is against God's will." When she said that, they almost lost their mind.
The saints ain't ready for this.
But we're still going to talk about it. Catch Second Sunday from the Cube and PRX's Big Questions Project, available wherever you get podcasts starting April 24th.
Family, welcome back to the show. And let's kick off culture and entertainment with a coming out story of sorts. Sophia Bush has officially come out as queer. She wrote a cover story for Glamour magazine. It's called Sophia Bush, I Finally Feel Like I Can Breathe. It's a deeply vulnerable piece. She talks about being married. She talks about her divorce. She talks about being called a homewrecker. She talks about coming out. I mean, it's a piece. It's a piece. And if you love Sophia Bush or you're even interested, it's worth the read. She says, "I'm so lucky to be here now. I have real joy. It took me 41 years to get here." And here means in love with Ashlyn Harris, which is what most people already knew to be true. And y'all already know the messy story. And if you don't, there's a messy story between Ashlyn Harris and Ali Krieger, two famed soccer stars. Child, the scandal was all over the interwebs. It was a whole moment. Let me just tell y'all, Ashlyn wasn't coming out on top on this, all right? So for Sophia Bush to come out, tell her story in her way, and pronounce her love for Ashlyn is a moment. And I'm so glad she got to do it in her own way, on her own terms, and do it being a messy lesbian. I am so here for this. So here for this. And let's be clear, the lesbians have been on the timeline all week long in celebration of Lesbian Visibility Week. And for the first time, the Curve Foundation, which was born out of Curve magazine, released their 2024 Curve Power List. This list is composed of 50 LGBTQ plus women and non-binary trailblazers. And it wasn't a list that Curve came up with. The people, you, nominated. And then this list was formed from your nominations. These folks work in every aspect of our lives. And I just want to name a few because some I'm a fan of and some are my friends. You feel me? So much love to Ariana DeBose, Brittany Griner, Cheryl Dunn, Imani Rupert Gordon, who is a dear friend, Tracy Bain, who was a dear friend. I was so happy to see Amara Jones on this list, journalist, activist, host of the Translash podcast. If you're not listening, go listen. I'm just saying, hit the follow button, okay? Janelle Monáe is also on this list, along with Corinne Jean-Pierre, Kelly Robinson. Child, I can literally go on and on. Margaret Cho. This list is fire. Rachel Maddow is also on this list, as well as Nadine Smith. Y'all hear me talk about her all the time. She's the CEO of Equality Florida, who talks about the slingshot analogy. Yeah, that Nadine Smith, she's on this list, as well as United States Representative Sharice Davids. I included a list in the show notes in case you want to check out, learn about, research some lesbians out here doing some real good in the world. For our next story, we've got surprising news. Candice Parker has announced her retirement. After 16 years in the WNBA, she is hanging up her sneakers and calling it quits. And she made the announcement in an Instagram post where she said, "The competitor in me always wants one more, but it's time. My heart and body knew, but I needed to give my mind time to accept it." If you're a basketball fan, then you remember last season, Candice went to the Las Vegas Aces, but she wasn't able to play due to a foot injury. She won another championship though, which was really dope. But I know she didn't feel as a part of it as she wished she could have been. She's been trying to rehab, but at 38, her body was just like, I can't take it. In her Instagram post, she talks about having 10 surgeries over the course of her career, what it meant to play in pain. And today, she just knew it was time. She has given the game so much, and I feel so honored to have been there when the Chicago Sky won their first WNBA championship, and Candice was able to bring it home for us. As a matter of fact, Candice is the first player in league history to win a championship with 3 different teams. She's a 3-time WNBA champion, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She was the first player ever to actually win Rookie of the Year and League MVP in the same season. Who does that? Candice Parker. What she has done for the game on the court and off the court are really unprecedented. She picked up the torch from Lisa Leslie and carried it for the last 16 years. And then she had the opportunity to pass it along to Asia Wilson. What a beautiful legacy. She also said she wanted to leave without all of the fanfare and every stop, but child, I can't imagine. Every place she goes to do play-by-play or show up to is not going to be a whole hell of a lot of fanfare. She absolutely deserves it. Congratulations, Candice. And for our last piece of news for today, my favorite story coming out of Lesbian Visibility Week is MiLaysia Fulwiley and her girlfriend Jameesia Ford. MiLaysia's coach is Dawn Staley. That's right. She's a freshman on the South Carolina Gamecocks who won the NCAA Women's National Championship this year. Dawn Staley calls MiLaysia a generational talent. That's how good she is. Her highlight reel is sick, and Steph Curry signed her to his agency. That's right, she's repped by Steph Curry. That's how good she is. And her girlfriend, also a fellow freshman, Jameesia Ford, is killing it in track and field. They can't catch her. She is literally being touted as the fastest freshman in the NCAA. She became the NCAA 200-meter indoor champion. That's right, she ran that in 22.34 seconds. Not to mention, earlier this year, she became the second fastest athlete to run the U.S. 200-meter indoor race of all time, and the 4th fastest collegiate athlete of all time to do it in 22.36 seconds. So if you get the point, these two people are amazing athletes, and they're dating. South Carolina was having their end of the year gala, and they were both up for Freshman Athlete of the Year. And do y'all know what happened? That's right. They both won. So not only are they in love, but they get to share the title of Co-Freshman Athletes of the Year for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Their video on Instagram was so cute. I'm going to be sharing it because you deserve to see how cute this is, okay? And how much they're in love. And we all deserve to see Black lesbian love on full display. Period. Congratulations, y'all. All right, y'all. You know what it's time for. It's time for Anna's Got a Word, because Anna's always got a word. And today my word is grief. And I don't want us to run from it. I'm doing my best to embrace it myself. You know, my mom has dementia, and they call it the slow goodbye, because I lose a piece of her every day. Sometimes I'm my sister's name. She looks at me for a split second, and then she recognizes who I am. And there's grief that lives in all of that. There's also grief when friendships change and morph into other things. There's all this grief that's been circling me. And I just have to embrace it and cry whenever I need to cry. I give myself hugs. I sit by myself and meditate. I keep my favorite scriptures close. And I embrace the sadness. And so today, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what's happening in your life. But if you're experiencing grief at any stage of it, I'm coming to you telling you to embrace it, to let it be, to let the tears flow so that you can continue to move forward. Otherwise, grief will grab you and hold you close, and you won't be able to see a way out. But I want you to know there is a way out. And grief doesn't have to hold you if you, in fact, embrace it. All right, family. Till next week. Peace. If you've enjoyed what you heard, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is written and produced by me, Anna DeShawn. Podcast editing by Ryan Woodhall. And brought to you by E3 Radio and distributed on The Cube. We are Queer News Done Right.